Alrighty then, hello everyone. Tutu is spending his lunch break here. That makes me feel like now I have to make this a good stream. Thank you for wasting your precious lunchtime on this. And Xlux is banging his head against the wall or something. Don't do that. That's not a good idea. Let's see. Here we go. Welcome everyone to this rather unplanned stream. I streamed yesterday, first time in a little while, and it actually went pretty well. And since then I've continued working, so I figured we're just gonna continue basically where we left off. Except I've done like quite a significant amount of chunk of work in between these streams. So that should be fun. That should be fun. I named this stream camera animations, because that is explicitly what I've been doing today and well, not really yesterday. Actually, I'm already rambling and we're like 1 minute in. I managed to fix my Affinity Designer problem, first of all. Look at this, it runs again. How cool is that? So what we did yesterday was adding this UI element to the HUD, and I made some changes. I improved it quite a lot actually after that, because I kind of didn't really like the way it looked. And spent quite a lot of time on stream yesterday trying to kind of go like, what is it that I don't like about this? And then like within maybe 20 minutes after shutting off the stream, I had it in a pretty good spot. What was the issue? I don't exactly know, but it was something with my GPU drivers. So pro tip for you, if you use this program, if you run into the same issue, launch the game and hold down Control. Oh, we need to shut it down first. Hold down Control while you're launching this game, and it will show you this kind of screen. From here you can disable hardware acceleration. So just like tick that and then click clear there. If I did that, it started, but the minute I went and enabled it again from here, from settings, so here OpenCL compute acceleration, this thing, it started crashing again. And I basically just reinstalled my GPU drivers. And while I did that, I disabled the automatic updates for that. I didn't even realize I had enabled automatic updates for GPU drivers. That sounds kind of flaky and risky to have on, right? But yeah, apparently it had updated my drivers a few days ago, and something went wrong. So live and learn. But hey, we have Affinity again. That's nice. That's nice. Okay, so let's actually play the game a little bit here, and I'll show you what we have, what new stuff we have added since yesterday. Let's put down the volume again here a little bit. Conversation, right? So you might be wondering, what is this weird block doing here? I added a block to the layer, which loads in when you load this conversation, and like, look at that. We have a fade first of all, a camera fade. We have a camera that now rotates around this thing, and the block is here just to test out that my collision detection works, right? If you place a conversation somewhere where there isn't that much space, you don't want the camera to start intersecting with stuff. So I added a block here to test that my collision detection actually kind of works. So this is now sort of like the base camera that, like, if you don't set up any camera for a conversation at all, it just kind of like slowly rotates around the object, and we can see here that we have a few settings for that. have like a minimum distance and a maximum distance for the orbit, a pitch, and then orbit speed. And you can even set a camera pivot here, which is currently set to this guy. So it actually kind of doesn't pivot around the object itself, right? Rather it pivots around something that's about here. Just to give it a bit more sort of fluidity, perhaps. You can see that this screen is redone. We have mouse control now. I think I did that after last stream as well. We have mouse controls, but I also just like tweaked the look of this screen. I think this is more traction point. Of course, this conversation here with these options are just completely bonkers still, but that's probably something that we'll actually get to tweaking today. So we can select something and the conversation kind of like plays out. That option actually was set to early out and then exit the conversation. You can see again here that we have like some nice fades between these things. Actually takes quite a lot of time to make sure that everything is like nice and smooth. Like if we drive through this at pretty high speed here, we can see that, okay, we paused the simulation here, making sure that, you know, the simulation pauses at the correct place in the fade and all of that. It's actually kind of tricky because we are running this on a client-server system, so the server is actually the one that is stepping through this conversation here. And of course the client is the one that like manages all the cameras and everything like that. So that's kind of neat. I also have another thing which is pretty nice, and that is like custom camera animations. So if we select option 3, because you choose option 3, camera animation. So this is actually now like a camera animation that is triggered by the conversation, right? So you can trigger camera animations just like you can trigger lines. And while this is now going on, you can still like select these other things, and it ends normally, and then it goes back to the normal camera. If this thing like plays out now, it's just a spline that I have in the level. It kind of plays through this thing, and then it goes back to the default one, which is again the one that rotates around the center of the conversation there. So I'm thinking with this, especially when we get to like some proper narrative stuff in these conversations, if we have some big reveals and things like that, we can have these like dramatic camera things playing out during the conversations. That should be kind of nice and neat. But the workflow for this is kind of gnarly currently, so we're gonna do a little bit of work for that. So here we have the script. We've looked at this before. Yeah, this editor does. All right. OBS is doing something funky, but the thing seems to be back. So let's hope that was a one-time fluke. Anyway, we have this part here, which is the conversation that we're looking at now. We can see it kind of maps pretty directly to what we have here. We enter around here, and then we have option 1, 2, and 3, and then we have some like stuff that happens when we select option 1, 2, or 3. So option 3 specifically, we select this option 3 here. You can see secret third option is here, and then we actually play the camera animation using this special magical system speaker that I have. So system play camera anim, and then you give it the name of the camera animation that it wants to play, and it looks like this. The nasty thing with this is that this is actually a path to an object in the levels. We have we're mixing like narrative scripts here and also just game object paths, which I think is perhaps not the best idea. Because then if you make changes to the level, you have to actually go into the scripts and change paths there as well. So I was thinking we would add like a little bit of an indirection to that. And while we're at it, it would be nice to make it so that actually previewing these animations in the editor is a bit easier. So if we have the editor here, you can see we have these yellow lines here. This long one here is actually the camera intro animation thing. If you played the demo, you know the camera starts around here and then it kind of like moves along this line here and then like follows the car like this. So that's this yellow long line here. These two other ones are actually the ones that are now hooked up to this conversation. So we have this look at path and a position path. And we can preview an animation, and you can do that by quite simply just like looking at this these three axes that kind of like move along this spline here to see what it would actually look like. But this is kind of tricky, like you don't get a good sense of what the camera would actually see. So I was thinking maybe we could actually add a mode to this editor application here where it would like attach the camera to an object, at least briefly. I don't know, there's quite a few like open questions with that. But that would be very handy. Yeah, now it just loops, it just goes back there because the thing ended. But that would be handy because then you can author these things very, very nicely here in the editor. Of course, this like aspect ratio of this is not going to be exactly the same in the game and so on, but still, you should have a better idea of what you're actually looking at. Tutu says, I remember doing these movement kind of things 20 years ago in Delphi component called GLScene. Had a neat little design time editor. That sounds like an early OpenGL thingy. Yeah, I also actually did Delphi back in the day. It was awesome. I don't remember doing anything particularly interesting or noteworthy with it. But yeah, regardless, that spline that we see here in a previewing in the editor, that is like this movement, right? So imagine us attaching the camera to this thing, and we could actually see it here directly in the editor. Wouldn't that be nice? I think so. So maybe do these things, and then I was thinking we would actually like write a small conversation, complete with like placeholder voice acting and everything. I see how that actually feels. I haven't really written like anything sensible with this yet. It probably wouldn't be like an in-game conversation. It would still be like a test conversation, but let's make it make some sense. I think this conversation system is like starting to be like 90% there. I still have a few more things that I need to actually hook up so that these conversations can actually make changes to the world facts. So that's one thing that is still missing from this, but like overall I think like the presentation here is starting to be kind of sleek. Now granted, it might feel a little kind of jarring that we stop the world here, but like many games do this in like one way or another, and I think this is kind of a reasonable thing to do. So let's do it. It was powered by GL1 back then. Yeah, I bet it was, if it was 20 years ago. Coolio. How should we actually start? I think we should start by adding that indirection between those lines, so we no longer have to have have the path here. Probably just actually have indices instead. I think we'll start with indices. We still actually use indices for the voice templates. So voice 0 means clear voice currently, and voice 1 means voice with radio effects. So you get all of that like distortion and chirps and everything. All of that. So the way that I would probably do this then is actually add some like camera animation paths here to the conversation object. Just like we have a camera or a default camera pivot, we could have a list of camera animations here, so that when you set up this, you hook up your animations here. Like this object is the one that we are actually targeting here. This is the animation. The animation object then targets these paths. And we actually even have a scripted timeline here, which we don't probably need. I think it actually plays that. It probably just plays that same animation in the game. If we run that command. Yeah, it just plays that through. This is, by the way, how I've done the main menu background videos. It's exactly like this. I trigger one of these animations and then I just start recording frames. And I need to do that again now for the new pre-alpha when I release that, because we have quite a few changes to the level. So that should be fine. But okay, I'm gonna delete that scripted object or scripted timeline there. So we have just animation here. That's good. Okay, how do we actually add those things as propagated values? Or not propagated values, but exposed properties. Because they would need to be an array. And we don't really have support for arrays in exposed properties. But we can kind of fake arrays if we want to by hiding a set of items. So that means that we would have like an upper bound to this. VS Code wants to update again. Okay, let's do it. I think I've updated like 2 or 3 times within 24 hours. Alright. Of course, the first thing to list here is some agent stuff. Okay, thank you. Let's search for is exposed property visible. Do I really not have any fake arrays here in the... Oh, this is kind of one tag flag component. I think that's part of game trigger. It's not trigger. It's tag flag component. A blocker probably. Yeah, tag flag. Yeah, so here we can see that we have like, we set like how many we want with a count, and then it kind of shows us a number of these guys, and then we can set those flags. So we can do something like that. Count enum. Right, the count enum is just specified here. It's a very sort of ad hoc thing. But yeah, okay, maybe that will work. Maybe that will work. And then rather than having tag flags, we would have game object references. Like basically what we want to store there is the path of the object, the camera animation object. And that's a string, but it makes actually sense to store it as a game object reference. Just like we actually do already here in the with the pivot, because then the object, if we have it misspelled or anything like that, the editor will tell us that, hey, this is not a valid game object reference. Oh, 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Kid called me on the phone. So, yeah, let's just start working on this thing. I'm gonna move this tag flag component off to the side because we're gonna use it as a little bit of an example here for how to do this. How to do this stuff. So, I feel like I should probably have some sort of generic count, you know, type somewhere, but let's just add one there as well. And I think, you know, maximum of 4 is probably kind of reasonable. So, what do we call these? Like custom camera animations or something like that. Camera animation count, probably. And this would be a game object ref. We can actually shorten that like this. Oh, and I don't need that. I can just do dot init. There we go. So this would also be a game object ref. And yeah, we don't need to give anything to that, to those. They basically need an allocator because they might be allocating some strings internally. And because of that, we kind of need to initialize them all here. And then deinitialize them all here. There's some automation I have set up to do these sort of things these days, but I mostly just do it by hand. Like so. And then I think we should set up a category here for these guys. So let's have set it called camera animations. And the display name is a more beautiful version of that. And then we have basically this. So camera animation 0. The parent is supposed to be camera animations. And then we just copy this a few times again. We could do this with an inline for. So basically a compile time for loop. Okay, The other kid called me on the phone. I don't have any more kids, so we should be fine now. No more interruptions. Okay. Right, where was I? Now we basically have this done here, but these would now all be actually shown there. So to complete the fake array, we need to override this exposed property visible function. Oh, and it's access denied because we are running this guy, right? I don't think I have anything worth saving there, so we can take that away. Okay, and it typically goes here in this section, so let's have that. What do we use blueprint properties for here? Something I don't quite know. Right. So this would be count, probably just like that, and then we have this, right? Something like that, and that should now basically be what we need. Poor man's exposed property array. Maybe my wife will call me next. Yeah, I'm sure she will eventually. I'm sure she will eventually, but we should be good to go for like an hour or two. I don't know. Maybe my mother will call me, or my brother, or something. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens now with this. And then, of course, we need to pass these guys to the conversation manager. Right, so we have camera animations. Did I not? Oh, I didn't remember to expose that as a property. That's stupid. Let's not forget that. So we need to, of course, expose this property as well. Count enum, count 0. That should be fine. Camera animation count. Yeah, you can set the display name here if you want to actually set it specifically. If you don't, then it will try to like pretty print this field name here. That should be fine. Camera animation count. Or if we want to, we could just make it count, and then we would do display name count, like that. And while we're at it, we can just make, animation 0. Something like that. And then the inspector looks a little nicer when we're not repeating the camera word everywhere. All right, let's see. All right, so count 0. If we make it 1, we get 1, animation 0. Make it 2, we get 0 and 1, and so on. Sweet. Not bad, not bad. Okay, so that would be that, and this now handles actually like setting that value automatically. So we can have 1 like this, and input this test conversation animation here, and this is kind of like the the correct place for it, right? Because it's actually right here, and you can even get the full path here. Copy it to the clipboard if you want. So here is where we actually want to have these paths, not in the script. And then in the script we just refer to them by index. We could of course like expose some fancy names or whatever here, but I don't think that's really necessary. I think it's probably even more rememberable to have just indices. So we need to expose these guys from this component somehow. So how do we do that then? Probably just have a function here for that. Pub. It's actually, those are all kind of like built-in functions. So let's just add here another section and call it pub fn get camera animation. Conversation component, actually self, like so, and we can even make it a const self. And then the index is probably usize, I would assume, and then we can return, probably just return one of these object references, because these are, like most things, they are actually, well, this one actually isn't. This one contains a string, so there's a little bit of like ownership going on here. So we probably don't actually want to do that. The question though is, what do we actually want out of this guy? I bet we actually just want the name hash. So let's go look at the conversation manager to see what it actually wants. So currently we have this thing, system play camera animation, and then we give the path here. So play camera anim is the verb there as the thing that kind of identifies what kind of system message that is. And we have it, where do we have it? We have it here, right? Item text. So handle custom system command in the conversation engine. So I think I actually want to use, now that I look at this, we want to use string equal, yeah, rather than std mem equal. It's just a wrapper. One is a wrapper for the other, but like that's kind of how I typically do it. So basis string equal like that, and then we don't have to give this type here. There we go. Right, so data block name. It actually wants the data block name. Okay, that's fine. So it doesn't want the hash. It wants the full name of the data block. That's completely fine, though. In the function that we are creating here, we will make it return the string. So that would be a const u8 slice like this. And here I think we should probably just do basis.assert d. Make sure that index is smaller than self. Camera animation count, probably int from enum. Self camera animation count. And then we make the message something like conversation camera animation index out of bounds. That was a mouthful, right? Okay. And then we can do maybe return switch index. Zero. Self. Camera animation 0. Name str. I'm not being fancy with this, I'm just writing them out like this. I'm way past being fancy with my code. Unless there's a very good reason to be. Okay, that's nice. So get camera animation. And what we want to do here in the conversation manager then is actually this text thing here will contain the index, right? That will contain the index. This should be running on the server. Yes, advanced and send line. We assert that we are not on the client. In other words, we're on the server and we're handling this guy here. So that means that we should be, we have a pointer to that object already, or we can easily get it. Let's see. Or another thing that we can do is that when we start this conversation, we collect all of the camera animations up front, so to speak. Request start. Call by conversion component on interaction. Yeah, that's like this guy. Here. So request start. So what we could actually do here is we can even just pass these guys as parameters here, right? That could work. Maybe that's actually the smartest way to do it. And they can be like weak copies, or they can even be full copies. Weak copies is probably enough. Let's do it like that. I'm gonna add camera animation data blocks here, and then that would be a, what is this now? This is like a slice of strings, which looks like that. That's a very weird type name, but I think that is correct, right? Isn't it? Yeah, I have a bunch of them all over the place. So it's a slice of slices, really. Camera animation data blocks is a slice, so an array of strings. This is basically a string, and a string, of course, in Zig is like a slice of U8s. That's why the conversation path is here also a slice of U8s. So this weird type here is a list of strings, essentially. Or one way to do a list of strings, the most lightweight way to do a list of strings. Really. How do we package these up into one such thing, though? Now we don't need that actually anymore. I'm just comment it out for now. So here we could do var camera anims is basis bounded array of type const slice of U8, and buffer capacity would be 4, because that's like the maximum one that we have here. Count 4. and then we do camera, and that's not what we want. We want it to be like that, and then we want to init it like that. And then in camera anims we do append zoom capacity, or rather we do 402 self. This needs to be a int from enum self animation count. Actually, we don't even need that, so we can make it like that. And then we do camera anims append zoom capacity. Yeah, we don't have them in we don't have them in any way that we could actually address them by name though. So okay. Yeah, this is a little stupid with these fake arrays here. Okay, well, let's do them in a very silly way. I will do count here, camera animation count, int from enum. Int from enum, and that would be self count. Yeah, let's shut off super whisper here. I don't need that. Bye bye. Camera animation count, and if camera animation count is larger than 0, then we can do camera anims append zoom capacity self camera animation str. 1, 2, 3. Actually, we can even do like Zig. Zig is fine with this syntax. It's more compact. I mean, we could collect all of these guys into a local slice of GameObject-refs, and then we could use them, you know, by index that way. That might be nicer, but we'll see. Anyway, now we have this this guy here, and we should be able to pass a slice. That's actually a const slice, like so. Yeah, maybe the nice thing here would be to actually like collect these into a slice. Or even have them as a sort of a bounded array with pointers to these guys. Then we could actually just use them as is. But whatever, it's fine. It's fine. So this now succeeded. Request start doesn't do anything with it yet. That's completely fine. The question now is, how do we want to actually store those, right? It's probably enough to just have weak references. We don't need to necessarily copy the strings over, because as long as the conversation is actually running, this conversation component should be alive, so these objects are also alive. Stands to reason. So, thinking here if I can like easily somehow make this this count 4 public here so that we know what is the maximum count of these guys. And of course I can definitely do it like this. Max animation. Max camera animation count would be 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this actually, it's called count 4, and it actually has the numeric value of 4 as well. Does stud, oh, we don't have stud here. Stud import enum values count enum. I bet I do this somewhere. Let's see. Get like the last one of them, right? Or in this case I can do len -1, right? Maybe that's actually nicer to have below this. And that should be 4, so then we can have this be max camera animation count. Right, the length of this is 5. That means that if we keep adding more object like this, then this will work. Max camera animation count, and then this conversation manager can just use the same idea. Another way that we can do it is actually we can make this entire type public, but that's maybe a little wonky. Let's not do that. I'm just gonna come here and I'm gonna do camera animation data blocks. Right, and now we don't have that, but if we have the actual component here, don't we have this conversation component? We use the entire path to it. Okay, well that's fine, but maybe we can shorten it a little bit. Like this. And then we can do that. Shorten that as well. That should build, right? And this is server only. System is getting so ridiculously complicated that like what is, how many lines is this? Like 716 lines for a seemingly simple system. It's crazy. Server only. Data block names for animation paths that the conversation object refers to. These can be referred to by index from the inc script. Right. And now if we go down here to play camera animation, this one's the data block name. So we have to find where do we actually call this guy, and it's right here. So RPC proxy play camera animation. So before this, because that's an RPC proxy to something that runs on the client, we can see that it just like serializes the stuff and then sends a network message. So this is still running on the server. This is where we can actually convert from one to the other, essentially. So the item text should contain the index of the camera animation to use. It is, however, a string because like everything is strings here in Ink, unless you actually like export a proper function from Ink, which you can do. I haven't actually done that, but since we currently run it through this kind of system camera anim, this is actually like a line of text that we just, we treat it a little bit differently because this is the system speaker character saying something, and then what it is that we are actually doing with this is encoded here in this so-called qualifier play camera animation. I wonder, how do I get an integer from a string in Zig? I don't remember if I've ever even done that. Int from bool. That's interesting. How do we get an integer from a string? Let's see. Okay, parse int, std format parse int. Std format parse int, so that would be const index is std format parse int, and the int type we want is probably a usize, I would assume, and the buffer is that's the string, so that would be item that would be item.text dot, oh, that's just item.text, and base, I don't know, I guess that's 10, right? That's the base of the, what kind of base number it is. Yeah, the examples all use 10, so I assume that's what we want here. Okay, and if this breaks, then that means that we have some crap. Oh my god, how do I do a catch? Is it basis fatal error with name? I think it is. No, it is almost. It's catch error and then like this. Then we need the source error, something like that. Right, so now we have the index. Out of the index, we can get the path, or actually the data block name, self camera animation data blocks, const slice index, right, and then we can pass this guy to there. And let's just assert here if we are actually about to go out of bounds with a sensible message. So this should be smaller than self camera data blocks len. I think we already had a pretty nice message here. Let's reuse that guy. Right. That should be it, shouldn't it? Mm-hmm. What do we have? Incompatible types. Use size and void. Isn't that how we do it almost everywhere? We don't actually return anything from these guys though. I guess that's the difference. Incompatible types. What am I doing wrong here? It's the problem that this actually becomes a void when we do the catch like this. I think we just need an unreachable there. Yeah, exactly. Because like this guy returns a U size or an error. But then this block here, which I guess is all the way over there, this doesn't return anything. So we have to have an unreachable there so that we don't like, you know, Zig doesn't know that this is actually a fatal one, even though it's called fatal. So it could, like, in theory even go past this, and then like what would index be? Well, we don't know. Okay. Not bad. I wonder if this would work. Let's get rid of that. We never needed that actually. So package up the available camera animation data block names and pass them to the conversation manager. That's kind of obvious. We don't really need a comment for that. I was thinking I would write about the weak copies that I'm about to make here, but I guess we can do that here instead. So 402 camera animation data blocks len like this. Before we do anything else, let's do self dot camera animation data blocks clear. Clear just sets, yeah, it just sets len to 0. So here we can do self camera animation data blocks append zoom capacity and camera animation data blocks I. And we don't even need to do that, we can just do this, right? And then we can just, that could be like stir, like that. And I don't really think we need to look out for index out of bounds here, because like we're initializing this guy with the max camera animation count, which like loops back to this. So I think it should be fine. This guy is also used here. Yeah. Let's try with that. Okay. So, let's do like a basis print f. Playing camera animation index something. data block something. I'm gonna have to need to move this down a little bit to around here. And we can do index and data block name. So first of all, if we run this now, we should get an error here. Which is probably one of the, like, invalid something or other. What was it called? Invalid character or overflow. Let's see what actually happens if we try to do this now. But it should not parse cleanly as an integer, and so we should basically fail if we run this. About now, yeah, invalid character, exactly. Okay, that's fine. So now instead we need to do this, but I'm gonna add erroneously number 1. That should also fail, but we should fail with an out of bounds error instead. Make sure that is the case. Testing out the error cases first. Yep, out of bounds, good. You can actually see the camera kind of continue moving there. That's because all of this logic runs on the server. The client is just happily chugging along there, updating the camera. Doesn't know that the server has run into trouble. And now it should work. Let's see. Nope. What do we have here actually? Conversation camera animation index out of bounds. Did I actually? Running 0 there, okay. And I did reconvert it, I'm pretty sure I did. Index needs to be not len, but capacity. No, it is len. It's len. It's len, all right. Let's debug this and see what we actually get here. If we can debug it. It's always a bit flaky with Zig, whether or not the debugger works or not. Okay. Index is variable is optimized away. Fun. Okay, so what do we have? Camera animation data blocks. 0. Okay. So that begs the question, have I actually exported this level now with the new data? Probably not. I probably never did that. I just set the value there, but I didn't export it. So we have it set to count 1 here. Now it's gonna wait for the light probes to build. We have it set to 1 there, and we have that actual animation going on there, so that's fine. But I still need to export it. Okay. What about now? Okay, there we go. That was the problem. Yeah, so now we're getting the animation that we're expecting. Nice. Nice, nice, nice. I don't think I've I've ever tried this other command that this supports, though. Stop camera animation. So let's try that. Let's make one of these other options stop the camera animation. Option 2, for example. System, stop camera anim. And I wonder if that actually... Does this even work? I don't know. We'll find out. It does convert, okay. So if this works, we should stop the camera animation before the narrator says option 2 was carried out. It should go back to its rotation default animation. Let's see. So option 3 starts the camera animation. Option 2, choose option 2. Okay, yeah, it actually works. Nice. Sweet. Sweet. Okay, cool. Well, that would be that. I think like the camera animation runtime is now pretty nice. Now, of course, would be the time to start looking at getting this preview working here in the editor. So how in the world would we do that? I was thinking initially that I would just simply attach the camera to the object that is currently selected, right? So if we have this thing, and we have an animation that like moves it like this, you would just have a toggle up here in the top bar, which is like attach camera to the currently selected object, and it would like literally just go and update the transform for the object every update, every frame basically. But the problem is that this guy, this animation thing, this doesn't even have a transform component. It's a purely logical object. You can preview the thing here and you can see this thing starts moving here. But that's just a debug draw thing. This object doesn't really have a place in the world. It just references these other things, these waypoints. So here's the waypoint for the end, for example. And those things have positions in the world, like obviously. And this animation object does not. It basically just uses other objects' positions. So that won't work for this one use case that I actually have for this thing. So that's a bit stupid. This guy's flying. Just levitating. Like a boss. This one as well. I've lowered the cliffs a little bit here. Let's fix up these guys. Anyway. That won't work. So what do we want to do instead then? And what even is that? Like on a code level. It's a basis : path animation component. The : tells me that it is in C++. and it's a component that looks like this. And here we actually have preview, build preview, preview player, transform animation player. Okay. Yeah, this is the same thing that actually is used at runtime. Although I think we have a version of it in Zig as well. Yes, here we go. I think this is actually what I use in this particular game. It's like very much just ported over to Zig from C++, but the editor probably actually uses this version. And the output of this is the get current transform, so this will be used somewhere in this. Yeah, in update, and then we draw the three lines, red, green, and blue, and that's what we see here. This stuff. So basically, I would like to push this world matrix to the camera here if I have that thing on, but that's kind of backwards. I don't really want to go in and add code to these individual objects to make the preview work. That's not very nice. Or do I? I mean, I could do it. We have some exposed properties here. And this is even marked as being editor only. So I guess we could probably get the editor camera, editor manager. What do we do with the editor manager here? Do we do anything with it? Doesn't really look like we editor manager. Editor communications manager then. Yeah, actually print some info here. There's probably some stuff that we see here when we actually build, export the level. Okay. So editor manager has a function called get editor camera. And basically we could just hack it and have this thing actually actually just set that, right? Editor camera, communications manager, editor manager. I think this is the thing that actually drives the camera normally. Camera node. Okay. So what we could do here is actually we could add a new message to this, which would be probably the editor category. here. Set camera transform. There is even a message for us already. What do we do with this? Yeah, this one sets it. Align camera with selected object. Right, so we can do this. You could just quite simply fire a message like this, and that would actually set the camera transform. Let's just try that. Let's see what happens. See what happens. I'm gonna unload the backend here. And then we go to path animation component. And in the preview here, that would be position. This would be orientation. Identifier message is undefined. We probably need just to include the messages, engine messages, and that's it. We're kind of painting ourselves into a corner here a little bit because there is in fact no way to stop a preview in the editor once it's started. So there will be no way to get out of this. But let's just quickly see if this actually works. And if this gives us what we want to see, then we can make it actually usable. Okay, we have the camera here. I'm just gonna cancel that light probe building for now. We'll do without light probes for a little bit. So animation, preview. Look at this. This works. It just works. Okay, so now I can't actually, no matter how much I try to move the camera here, I can't actually do it. Thing is being overwritten. Okay, so we should have a stop preview button to this, so we can just stop the preview, and then probably a checkbox here whether or not it should actually control the camera. And if you have multiple of these, they will of course all of them will fight over this, right? So if we have camera animations, let's add another one here. Fair warning, there may be some flickering now. Nope, no flickering. It's probably just because this wins. Okay, that's actually kind of nice. Such a simple solution to this. So let's see here. I'm gonna add a category. So this is exposed property category. Category name is preview. Preview. Options is nothing. And then under this preview, parent preview. Under this preview, we're gonna have this one, and then we're gonna have probably like, let's see, what is this? It's action name and then it's button text. Let's say play, and that can be preview play. This can be preview stop, and stop, like that. And then we will have attach camera during preview. No, come on. Can't type. Like so. Copy that there. That would be false. whether to attach the camera to the animation during editor preview. And actually, yeah, this needs to go here as well because we want it under the same parent. Something like that, right? And then if right there, and then we also want a stop. That was preview play, I think was the action name, wasn't it? Action ID, yeah. Preview play. Preview stop. If M preview player is playing, preview player stop. Quite simply. Is there some sort of reset to do here? I don't think there necessarily is. Yeah, jump to first frame. It just jumps to the frame when we stop it, you know, as opposed to just pausing it or whatever. Okay, this should be nice. Should have a nice preview of this thing now. And we should actually even be able to like attach and detach this mid preview, right? So now we have a nice preview section here. We can play, right? And then we can burp. And then when it stops, we can just keep moving and we can again burp. And if we stop it, it just stops. I can play it again. Hey, cool. Very cool. So this way it's now, you know, much easier to actually make changes to this. We're like, okay, we don't really like this. We want the thing to like focus on this test vehicle here a bit more. You just drag this curve here a little bit and then play. And maybe we want the position curve to go kind of close to the ground here for a little bit. Something like that. And then we just play. Look at this. Isn't that pretty nice? I think it is. So those of you who have played the demo, which you can do, by the way, if you go and join the Discord, you can get access to the Steam playtest. You can play right now. So go do that if that sounds interesting. So here, for example, there's a very old main menu animation that I used back in the day. This one is actually not used anymore. But this one should look familiar to anyone who has actually played the demo. This is basically like the background of the main menu. And then when this finishes, we actually have another one here that it jumps to. This won't jump to it. This will probably jump to the beginning of this particular animation. Right about now. And then we jump to this. I'm gonna like the fact that it leaves the camera at that position. Doesn't like snap back to anywhere or something like that. It's pretty neat. It's pretty neat. And you can just have the animation keep running if you want to. And then you can jump back in later. Everything just works. Nice. This turned out to be easier than I thought. Mostly because that message to actually attach the camera was already there. But I've never done it to used it for any animations. I've just used it to like snap to places and things like that. This is super nice. Okay, anyway, this is kind of the tech work I wanted to do today. I think now we will turn our attention to the test conversation that I was talking about, and think about what kind of conversation we should add here so that it like tests out some of this stuff a little more. Like, because most of the ink stuff that I've done, like for example the Minerva mission, which is the demo mission, this is mostly just like stuff that like runs linearly through these things. Like it kind of jumps which one of these knots it actually plays, but most of these actually just like run linearly straight through. So I need a little bit of practice to actually write branching dialogue and stuff like that. So that should be nice. But I'm going to take like a short break, probably like 5 to 10 minutes, and then when I am back, we will start looking at that. So let's do a quick break, and I'll see you in a little bit. Alrighty then. We are back. So, during the break I was kind of contemplating a little bit what I would actually do here. And what I would actually use as a test conversation. So, without spoiling too much, I can tell you that there's going to be 2 conversations, kind of optional conversations, but still conversations in this demo level. It's going to be one outside the gate here, around here maybe, and then another one here in this elevator later on, with the same character, but just like in different states of the mission. And I wondered, or I was thinking that maybe we could use those places for the test conversation too, because then I can already start to set up like suitable camera animations and things like that, right? That could be kind of neat. So what do we have here now then? We have the actual conversation object, we have the animation, we have that box there, and we have a waypoint, which is the sort of default camera pivot. So first of all, we can take that box away. We don't need that for anything. And maybe we'll quite simply just move these guys over there. So yoink. Something like this, right? So that's the, come on, that's the waypoint if we want to have it kind of like off center. The position path is now, oh, that probably didn't move. No, those guys are still there. So that's kind of stupid. Let's move them as well. I can just do that to that. Although it might actually make sense to just completely redo these things, but whatever, let's keep them as they are for now. Now the nice thing about this is that we can immediately preview these things in the editor. Isn't that cool? So now if we actually just preview this thing, it will probably, well, it doesn't look as bad as I was thinking it might. But yeah, it's not super good. The look at the path is kind of wonky. First of all, let's make it less wonky. I don't exactly know what we want yet, though. But I'm thinking we probably want to have kind of a sweeping view of this station here, this lift station. So if it isn't like obvious what is going on here with these curves, we have two of them. We can change the color of one of these if we want to. Make it, I don't know, blue, light blue, turquoise, whatever. Just to kind of make it a bit more distinct. And when we play this animation, we can see that this thing starts like running along this curve. We can sample that curve in many different ways. Currently we're just doing it with a linear normalized, so it just goes from 0 to 1 like linearly. We can of course also do it with like a smooth step or whatever, smooth normalized for example, has like an S shape. actually very much looks like it would be smooth, but it claims it isn't. It claims to be linear. Okay, well, I don't remember. I don't remember how this works actually. But what I do remember is is that we have this thing here, and it runs along the position path in this direction, because this is the first waypoint and then this is the last. And then we also have a look at path, and you can kind of consider there to be a similar sort of object running along this path at the same time as this is running. And we have another look at path here, and we have a look at target sample curve for that as well. So we are sort of sitting on this curve, moving this way, and we are looking at something that is running along this curve that way. So it's sort of like there in the middle of this. My mouse should basically, if I could find the absolute center of the viewport, my mouse should basically always stay on that curve, on that yellow curve there, and it looks like it is doing that. Oh, we're running underground here a little bit. Yeah, you can see that I can't quite find the center of the viewport though. Let's move that so that it's not sitting underground anymore. Yeah, if we wanted this to be a camera animation for a conversation happening down here, we would definitely want this look at. And that's not it. This is the look at curve. We wanted this to be further down so that we're framing the objects better. Something like this maybe. I think that probably works, but let's see. I'm gonna see about actually making these. Like moving them a little to the right there so that we don't look so far to the left. We can of course make this shorter. Now it runs the whole thing in 10 seconds. And if we want to do like a real sanity check here, make sure this is actually behaving like we expect it to, we can make the nose dive there at the end. Yep. Now there's almost no actual nose diving happening. We would have to move this further down. Maybe it's actually that. Yeah. Cool. If we made it like something like that, then it would be very kind of abrupt there at the end. Because we're moving so close to the look at target. You can see that it looks almost straight down there towards the end. Okay, anyway, it does behave kind of the way I expect. It's just that you have to like mess with this. It's kind of interesting that like the undo actually like contains this like checking of this. So if you just press Control C a number of times, your camera actually kind of jumps around a little bit as it undoes the setting and unsetting of this toggle here. Yeah, it's fine, but I still want this. Still want this to be more to the right. Maybe actually what I want is to not have this position curve move so far that way. Maybe that's what I actually want. I don't know. I actually kind of liked it the way it was set up before. I'm kind of imagining here in my mind what that conversation that I'm planning to write here for this thing is actually going to be, but I don't really want to spoil a whole lot for you guys at this point because I think it's going to be kind of funny. It's actually a little bit of a comedic relief, believe it or not. Not sure we'll get it into the demo with actual like voice acting and everything, but I think it should be pretty good. Wait a minute, what am I doing? Yeah, I'm doing this exactly. Yeah, this is the correct way. Well, we can live with this for now at least, I think. Let's have that be animation 0, and have it set here, so that we can clearly see that, okay, like when we are referring to animation 0 from the script, we get this, right? I do wonder if we should just move this a little bit closer, though. I think that might make sense. Oh, right. That's why it doesn't update. I changed the name. So I need to fix those up. There we go. Can't quite stop fiddling with this. How it typically goes. Then we'll want it probably at about 40 seconds. Yeah, I think this is starting to be kind of roughly what I want. But we will have to see it with the aspect ratio of the game to see if this actually fits the conversation or not. Yeah, the end there is kind of stupid. And is kind of stupid. It like really doesn't work when the camera goes that close to the ground. Something like that. Something like that should be kind of okay. Alright. Now we can stop it. Okay, cool. Now then, how do we actually write this thing? This thing actually references a conversation with a path here. Conv/conversations/ Mrs. Florence. This is the actual name of the character that we will reference there in the campaign. Mrs. Florence doesn't exist yet, but we can see the conversation is right here in the editor. I think we'll just create a new one. New conversation, and we'll call this just conversation test. Might want to actually copy these same things over here. Yes. Copy that as well. Apply test conversation to. I can just make a copy of this basically. To begin with, conversation test. Copy the path of that, and we'll actually use this now as the test conversation for the object here, right? And in this ink file that we have going here, not that one, but conversation test. I think this is now where we will start to actually do a whole bunch of various things. This editor that I'm using, called Dinky, this is an editor that is specifically designed for writing this kind of dialogue ink. It's not very good. It's kind of horrible, to be honest, compared to all of the big ones. It does, however, give us some nice. Does have some nice features. The nicest of the features is probably the fact that it hides these ID tags. So, like, if you look at this, like, you know, the Stellar's line here, it says Stellar : a new line. This is the line that he says. But here it has the same thing, and then it has this pretty long ID. And this is the way that the system actually references these lines later on, so that we can localize them, we can refer to the correct audio files and all of that business. And you can just edit this, you know, if you're careful and you know what you're doing and you're not bothered by these IDs, you could definitely use any kind of editor to edit this stuff. But it's a little bit annoying because you have these IDs everywhere. So that's why I use this Dinky editor, which is specifically designed for this, which not only hides those IDs for you, but like can preserve them across edits and generate new ones and all of that. You can actually see the IDs here if you hover over this small exclamation points. I do appreciate that this editor exists. This is like a one-man project made by a person who wrote this entire like dialogue ink system. So I do appreciate that it exists. It's just that, like, as an actual text editor, it's not super good. But we will live with it. Okay. So how do we actually want to, like, eventually enter one of these conversations? I wonder if I should have a convention that says something like main, right? Main. So that's like an entry point. Dink. Hashtag Dink just means that this is a Dink or dialogue ink script or a not. And maybe when we enter this conversation, one of the characters should say something. I'm not going to do the Mrs. Florence stuff now. Instead, we're going to leave that for later, because that allows, or that requires me to do a whole lot of like figuring out on the whole narrative side. So we're just going to use some of our beloved characters from our crew here, and we can write some dialogue here and see how it all works out with audio and camera animations and all of that. Test audio, I should probably add, right? So maybe we should just start with Rowan saying, hi Bet, there you are. Of course, our character's name is Bet in the game. Yes, okay. So this editor also does things like validating this ink syntax. And currently, it's like, hey, you don't really have a divert anywhere. We don't really know what to do when this thing actually like has played. So we can add an end there, and then now it should be happy with it, because like we're starting the thing, we're printing a line, and then we're ending it. So that's okay. But we don't really want to do that. I think instead we want to write some options here. Where's everyone? And if we ask where is everyone, then we can either just answer here directly, and we can say like, you know, mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar. Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty is up to. Actually, something like this, right? Or alternatively, we can make it like a subsection here. Where is everyone, for example, like this. Need to make it a dink one as well. And then maybe when this thing has ended, we go back to main. So now we can take those guys and move them here. Actually, I think we will want to have voice lines here. Voice. These scene description lines are useful if you want to actually have a scene description printed on the screenplay, but I'm not going to do that here for this test conversation. We're not really going to give this to any voice actors or anything like that. So where's everyone? In this case, we would go to where is everyone, and then we come back here and then we end this. Except I don't think it really will end, because what would happen here is that we enter this main, we have Rowan says hi, there you are, and then we have one option, right? And if you select that, then Rowan says these things, and then we go back to main, so we actually go back to this, where we say where is everyone. Kind of annoyingly, Rowan would probably say this thing again here, so we should actually probably prevent that somehow. We'll get back to that in a little bit. And even if this end is here, this shouldn't actually run, because we'd be stuck on this option here. But let's see if this actually works. First of all, so main, we can keep this test conversation 2 here. It won't actually run unless we actually jump to it with these kind of things. This is called a divert. This arrow in ink syntax. So let's set up the build script here for this to actually generate the placeholder audio. We can just copy the thing from here and plonk it in here, and we'll want to make sure that we have the, oops, that's not, replace these Mission Minervas with the conversation test stuff. And we can see that it runs the Piper text-to-speech generation business. Okay. So now that we have this, if we run this thing, it should take a little while for it to actually generate those files. Error generating TTS wave files. Okay, what's that? Okay, tunnels. Let's see. Tunnels are not supported. Right. The tunnels are these kinds of things. This is probably something that I need to actually add support for. I'm going to add a note myself here. I made like a very basic ink parser, and I didn't actually add support for tunnels yet. The reason it's been working so far is that we haven't actually generated any audio. TTS support for tunnels. And what a tunnel is basically when you have an arrow before stitch name, and then you have an arrow after the stitch name, and then you exit that stitch with 2 arrows. That's a tunnel, and that basically means like jump to here, do these things, and then jump back here and continue running. And that's different from what we're doing here with this main one, where we are like, we're diverting normally to where is everyone. That means that we've essentially like left this main, not after that, and we are here. And that means that we need to go back to main. We can't just go like, you know, jump back with 2 arrows. We need to tell it where do we go back, because we've left this completely. It's not like a stack calling another function. This is transforming into an ink tutorial stream, but there you go. Okay, so what do we do about this now? Well, we probably just comment out this part of the script as well for the time being. And now if we run this, we should probably be able to generate. Yeah, now we can see, now it's generating the wave files. And of course we can go and have a look, or a listen rather, audio, text to speech, conversation test. So we have a few here. Let's open a VLC. Come on, go away. And we should have some lines here by Rowan.
Hi, Vet. There you are. Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty's up to, actually. Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar. Hi, Vet.
Right, so that sounds okay. I mean, it's horrible as all hell, but, you know, it's all placeholder, so let's not worry about that. If we have this voice 1 command here, that means that the game will play these back using the radio effects, which I think is probably going to be the case with most audio in this game, most speech. Because, like, conceptually everyone is inside of their vehicles, right? And if I'm not mistaken, this conversation is now unstoppable, unescapable. But let's see if that is the case. Okay, I want to actually verify. Oh, by the way, we want to rebuild the, because I think I skipped the light probe mesh. So let's make it rebuild the light probe mesh here before we actually export. Oh, and if I'm doing something stupid in an ink script or otherwise, but particularly in an ink script, do let me know, because I am actually not very experienced with ink scripts. So I'd be happy to receive some tips or hints or corrections from anyone who is more experienced with ink than me. Let's pause the music for a little bit here. And now, of course, we start kind of far away from that test conversation. Maybe we can actually add another vehicle for us there and then just teleport to that, or set the avatar to be that. Let's load the test conversation here. We'll see what happens. Right, so here's the trigger area. And now if we enter this, if I know my ink correctly, Rowan will say hi to us, and then we'll get the 1 option. Nope. Is that maybe because we haven't exported this? It almost certainly is. Yeah, it almost certainly is that. So let's do that thing that I spoke about, where we have a scout. We plonk the scout here. we want the scout to be part of this thing here, and let's see, dev helper scripts, load test conversation, self set sp avatar to level objects, test conversation, scout. Something like that. And that way we don't have to drive all across the thing. Actually, we can just move it into the thing. Yeah, that's kind of stupid. This thing does like a ray cast downwards, so anything it hits, it kind of tries to stay on top of, but of course it probably shouldn't hit dynamic objects. Or at least it should be a setting, because sometimes we do want to hit dynamic objects, such as with the monorail, where we want it to stay on top of the monorail. Server run dev script. That's a function, and we'll call test conversation. Load test conversation is what it is. Load test conversation. Cannot set avatar, huh? No object called test conversation scout. Really? Really? Okay, yeah, we need to do it actually here. If layer name equals test conversation, here is where we can actually set that. Not avatar. That should be better. Shut that down for the time being. One thing that I really like about this engine is the fact that it's relatively easy to set up these kind of shorthands for you when you are developing. So now you can just press enter and then it will load the thing here and have it ready for us. Okay, let's try this. Okay, that's not good. I wonder what is happening here. So it's oh, is that did I? Yeah, I'm just being bad at my job again. Didn't set the start not name properly. All right. Okay, and we didn't get any audio, and that's also because I'm bad at my job. So, fortunately, the only thing we need to do to make audio actually get packaged up is to come into Timbre and then do an export. And it will go in and just package up a whole bunch of WAV files for us into a format that the game can read. And now, after all of this, hopefully I should have the thing working.
Hi, Vet. There you are.
All right, there we go. So now we can go like, okay, here, where's everyone? I can't really...
Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar. Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty's up to, actually. Hi, Vet. There you are.
Yeah, so it's kind of stupid in the sense that we begin here, and then we can only select this one thing, and then when this has gone through, we go back to main, so she says, hi vet, there you are again, right? That's stupid. Let's fix all of that. Next. And the first thing that we should probably have is just like this, you know, a leave option here, which actually just goes to end, right? I think this can actually be done. I like done here better than end. Done basically means that, okay, we are done now with this part of the story, but we can start something else if we want to. End means that we are like actually properly exiting the story. There's a subtle difference between the two. I don't exactly even remember what you're supposed to use when, but I think this is kind of like perhaps more descriptive right now. That main ends in done, but if we're leaving the entire conversation, we're diverting to end. Here we have a has played before variable, so maybe we should use that actually as I'm gonna call it something else. I'm gonna call it first entry 0. Or it can probably be a false, right? What is this? Oh, is that how it's supposed to be? Yeah, I think so. Let's have a look here at the official manual for ink. So there's this thing called writing with ink. This is written by the people who actually make this stuff, Inkle. False. Here we go. Global variables. The most powerful kind of variable, arguably the most useful for a story, is a variable to store some unique property about the state of the game. Anything from the amount of money in the protagonist's pocket to a value representing the protagonist's state of mind. Right. Yeah, so you declare variables with the var keyword, and then you can set them to like booleans, strings, numbers, or even other nots. And then when you want to actually access these things in the game, you need to start with a tilde, so the interpreter knows that this is not actually text that you want to, you know, add to the output, but it's actually logic. So start those lines with the tilde. That should be everything we need. Okay, so first entry is false. Actually, it's probably true, right? So rather than saying hi vet, there you are, it would be curly brace, first entry is true. Then row 1 says hi, there you are. And we can even indent that. And then we have an else. And then row 1 says anything else I can help you with. And then another curly brace. All right. Maybe we should have another one which is like has selected option is false. Something like that. Oh, that needs to be a large capital. Right. So if it's like first entry, first time you come here, she says that. If it's not, then I hope you can actually nest these things here, right? Can you nest these things? Pretty sure you can. So if has selected option is true, she goes like, anything else I can help you with? Otherwise she's like, oh, you're back, or something. No closing brace. Really? Yeah, so you can declare functions here. That's kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, let's try that since... oh, actually, that probably doesn't work with... Okay, yeah. Pretty sure this should work. Let's see if we can find some examples here using else. This is, of course, like 100% just me being bad at this language here. Should we have like... I don't think we need to have those. Yeah, I think this will at least work. So let's comment that out. So what I'm trying to do here is basically like make Rowan's greeting kind of make sense, right? So first entry and not select any option. Then we have, you know, something, blah. Then we need an else here with a dash in front. Oh, should there be actually like should be a dash there? Visited snakes and, oh, not like that, right? Visited snakes and not dream about snakes. Then they dream about snakes. Okay, so first entry and not has selected option. I guess they want us to use snake case, but I don't want to do that. If, you know, not first entry and has selected option. Using this form, we can include else if conditions. So that's exactly what we want to do here. So why is this like not? If x is 0, then we do that. If x is larger than 0, then we do that. Else we do that. We have exactly like the same thing. It's just the fact that we don't have like a maybe that was just the case. Just need to format it properly. Misspelled. Okay, well that's fine. Yeah, I think this is how we want to do it. So, if it is the first entry, then Rowan says, "Hi, vet, there you are." If it's not the first entry and we have selected an option, then she's like, "Okay, we've asked something else previously." But if it is, and maybe we can actually just spell this out completely. If it is not the first entry and we have not selected an option, then she goes like, "Oh, you're back," right? Like that. And that should now also work with our dialog inc syntax. And then we need to, of course, we need to set these things, right? So here we need to do tilde, first entry is false. And here we need to do also tilde and has selected option is true. And when we leave, we actually want to set this back to false. So that the next time we come in here, we haven't selected an option. This seems very convoluted, but of course I need practice with this thing. It's just annoyed at my spelling there, which is kind of silly, but you know, it is what it is. So we should have a couple more, actually 3 more files. Oh, it can't process it because the VLC is keeping them locked. There we go. All right. So now she should say, "Hi, vet, there you are." And then if we select something, select where's everyone, she should explain these things and then go back to main and go like, "Anything else I can help you with?" And then if we leave and we come back, then she'll go, "Oh, you're back." Right? So maybe that should actually be an else clause rather than anything else. Blonder Dan says, "Hey, I just joined the stream, but what do you mean camera animations? Do you mean implementing a camera shake system in a game engine or sequencer system in an engine?" yeah, if you go back in the stream a little bit, you'll see what we've been doing. But basically, one thing that I was doing previously is we're working on a conversation system. First of all, so it's camera animations in the context of the conversation system. And one thing I did was actually like exposing camera animations like this. Now you can see that it's actually playing this camera animation like this, following these splines in the editor. This wasn't possible previously. Let's get rid of those debug messages there. As we can see, it's kind of like just playing through this, and we can stop it. We can see that okay, there's the thing. There's the thing moving along the spline, and then we can jump back in and have it snap back to that. These kinds of camera animations. So more like the sequencer than anything else. Let's see. I thought you were coding a camera shake system like the Playworld camera shake. Yeah, we do actually have camera shakes. They're not enabled right now. I wonder if they're actually... There's a previous stream actually where we have camera shakes. That's probably the easiest place to find them if you want to actually see. Let's have a look. Yeah, here we go. So there's a stream called Making a Camera Shake System from about 2 months ago. That's where we actually do a whole bunch of like camera shaking when you like drive into things and whatnot. If you are interested in that, then that would be the thing to look at. So as I can see, you already have a custom engine and you're just implementing a certain system as gameplay code. Right now I'm not writing any code at all. Right now I'm actually writing a conversation between some characters here in this world. So I'm not even doing any features. I'm just like creating content, I guess is what you would call this. But yeah, let's actually see if we can build this now and get some of that logic that we are trying to implement here. Close that window. But yeah, I have a custom engine indeed. Set down the volume there to something a little less screamy. Oh yeah, okay. I need to do this again. I need to remember to basically rebuild the sound banks whenever we change lines, and arguably you could say that like okay, we already had this line, right? But this actually probably got a new ID because we moved it around a little bit. So the text-to-speech generated data no longer matched what we actually had there in the level, right?
Hi, Ved.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we can leave if we leave and we come back. Oh no. Conversation test main GMS1. Okay. Which one is it trying to play? GMS1. I don't know what that is. What is GMS1? GMS1 is right here, okay. Oh, what? Yeah, this is some residue stuff. That shouldn't have an ID. Clearly shouldn't have an ID. Yeah, that should be fine. I should report all of these bugs to the Dink creator. Already actually reported one bug in the runtime. Or not the runtime, but the compiler, the Dink compiler. We'll see. Okay.
There you are.
So she says hi because we haven't been here before. Now if we come back.
Oh, you're back?
Yeah, now it works. And then if we ask.
Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar. Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty's up to actually. Anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, like now she doesn't say hi again when the thing runs out, right? And we jump back to main. Instead, she says, "Anything else I can help you with?" And of course, we could have like more options than we have here currently. And every time we come back, she would basically say that. And if that actually starts to feel kind of samey, then we can use a shuffle. I'm just going to quickly see what the shuffle syntax was. Shuffle. That's just shuffle, colon. We can do a shuffle like this. Right. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We need a exactly. We need a little. We need a dash there. Something like this. We can just go like anything else. What would be a last one? Wanna talk about other things, right? Like this. And then if we add like another line here, which would be here, I guess. Blah blah. Then because we don't have a dash there, these two actually kind of are considered one item. So she would say either this, or these two, right? Let's see if this works. And now let's remember to do all the regeneration. So we need to build this. We should see a few more wave files. Yes, 2 more. And then we need to build this. And maybe I should add one more. Let's do like ask about elevator or whatever. Dink voice. Oops. Voice 1. And I'm thinking it would be something like elevator powered on yet. Ask about elevator. And then here Rowan could be like, no, not enough power. Enough. Come on. Not enough power cells in the receptacles yet. In fact, why don't you go see if you can find some? And then we go back to main, right? Like this. And then of course, in the actual game, we will probably check some variables here to see what is the state of the elevator before we answer. And yeah, this takes an annoyingly long time now that we're starting to have a little bit of audio content here. It would be nice if we could generate just one sound bank at a time, rather than the whole project every time. Okay, let's shut that down. The data for this unfortunately doesn't hot reload. Right.
No, not enough power cells in the receptacles yet. In fact, why don't you go see if you can find some? Anything else? Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar. Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty's up to, actually. Anything else I can help you with?
Alright. So it's already starting to feel kind of like a conversation. Maybe we should add here, do like a bye. Just that she actually like says something when you leave. Yeah, it'll take a little bit of time for me to like get really comfortable with these syntax quirks of ink. And also dink, so dialogue ink, which of course we're using here. That's why we have this dink tag. Has some additional rules for how you're supposed to actually write these, because ink doesn't have these like speakers, for example, out of the box. Let's actually use one of these camera animations here. Maybe this one would be the best place to put it. And now that we added this, we don't need to regenerate the audio anymore, because that doesn't come with any extra audio, so we can just use this, right? And now it should work. Let's have a look. Blonder Dan says, I'm also making my own custom engine. Honestly thinking about it when I'll make a cooking process. I need to find a way to convert all the assets into a single pack file. Yeah, that's not a very tricky thing to do. You can do it in a few ways. I support a few different formats. Like the older format is basically well, they're called pack files. They're basically zip files with a little bit of custom header. And what's easy about them is that you can use normal zip libraries to compress and uncompress. I don't really use them anymore because zip isn't the fastest to actually read and decompress. So currently I'm supporting two formats. I'm supporting pack, but I'm also supporting my own. So this is like what a shipped version of this game would look like. That's actually a slide. Let's go here to means. This is actually traction point, and we have these BP4 files, and BP4 is essentially LZ4 compressed data. So we can see, for example, the audio for the current version. This is not the one that we are now running. This is from what's that, like 5 days ago. 25 megs is all the audio. That includes all the music and everything. So it's just you know, files one after another, BP4 compressed. Just keep it super simple and don't try to make it too complicated.
There you are. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, you're back?
Okay, so if we ask where everyone is,
Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar.
we now get this nice
went to get some water.
camera animation here.
Not sure what Marty's up to actually.
And of course it
Wanna talk about
continues.
other things?
It continues here, even though we basically exhausted all of that stuff.
No, not enough power cells in the receptacles yet. In fact, why don't you go see if you can find some? Anything else I can help you with? Bye.
Bye. Yeah, the text-to-speech stuff is pretty horrible. It's pretty horrible, but it also like it gives a little bit of liveliness to those conversations, so it's kind of fun. Righty-o. Hey, this was a pretty good stream. I think I am going to call it soon. I got quite a lot of stuff done, and it is basically working the way I'm you know, hoping it would. I need to familiarize myself a little bit more with ink, and I need to wrap a couple more to-do item things for the conversation system, mainly to do with passing like world facts back and forth between the actual world and the conversation script, and then decide what this thing is actually supposed to look like. This is now using just a standard interaction area, just like the monorails and the other things. But maybe we'll want to have something else, like some speech bubble or something that you can even attach to like a moving object, so you can like conceptually sort of talk to another vehicle, for example, you know, stuff like that. And you can also skip these things. That's pretty nice.
Wanna talk about other things? No, not enough power cells in fact. Anything else?
Let's see that it actually jumps back to the normal camera when this custom camera animation runs out. It should go back to the normal like orbit camera. In about 1 second or so. Yes, there we go. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah, I kind of like this. Another thing that I've been thinking about if I should maybe do is limit the speed that you can have when activating those things. So if you have like super high speeds like this, for example, burp,
Oh, you're back?
it looks kind of stupid if you're talking to someone and you're like not even
Mother's out on a scrap run with Stellar.
not even standing in one place.
Diego went to get some water. Not sure what Marty's up to actually. Wanna talk about other things? No, not enough power cells in the receptacles yet. In fact, why don't you go see if you can find some? Anything else? Bye.
And then of course when you exit it, like it can lead to things like that where you're like almost driving into a tree. So maybe there should be like a speed limit on, you know, how fast you can move when you actually want to activate these things. But I don't know, that's like semi small things to figure out. I think it's actually pretty nice. It's been like an absolute thing to implement this. This is almost like a completely different game mode, and
Oh, you're back?
it just like makes so many things tricky. You can see that we have the entire world now in paused state. None of the particles are getting updated. Not even that glow there. I have these embers here. It's interesting actually. I haven't really. The tree animations are still running because they're actually shader animations. And we don't pause the time in the shaders really ever. I should do that, but I don't do that currently.
Mother's out. Do you not wanna talk? Bye.
Yeah. It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. It's kind of starting to feel more like a game when you can actually talk to people. That's interesting. Currently, you've only been able to listen to them. Of course, you can't really talk to people as you're like driving around doing things, but I think this is a pretty good sort of what should I call it? Compromise to be able to talk like this. Okay. Thanks to everyone who came to hang out today. It wasn't the most populous stream, but it's fine. It wasn't the prime time for streaming anyway, at least not for the Western world. But it was basically my work day, and my work day is rapidly approaching its end. So I better go make some food for my kids, otherwise I'm gonna get angry stares from everyone. If you want to play the game, be sure to check out the Discord. You can get a Steam playtest key for a slightly older version of this, but it will soon be updated with the latest and greatest stuff as well. If you want to support the project more broadly, you should definitely go and wishlist the game on Steam. There are links to both the Discord and the Steam page in the chat and in the description. I am actually about to call it quits for this stream. Yes, Xluxy, but if you've been away, you have some VOD content there that you can look at if you want to. We got the testing conversation into a pretty good state, I feel. So go and have a look there. It's actually starting to feel like you're talking to someone, and so that's nice. And yeah, remember to subscribe to both this channel and the main channel if you want to follow along with the development. I'm actually planning a new proper video about the game and its state for the main channel, so subscribe to both if you want to stay up to date. And have an excellent rest of your day. I will hopefully see you next time.